Hello, everyone, and welcome. I am beyond excited to have this conversation today with someone who's inspired me from afar. And now I get to have this conversation and share her wisdom and her experience with the world. And so, everyone, please welcome Dr. Linda Howe. Hello, Dr. Linda.
Hello, thank you so much. I'm really excited to be with you today.
Thank you so much for being here and for, again, just being a pioneer in this field and sharing so much. So I want to read your bio before we get into this, because I know that there's so much to share. Dr. Linda Howe is the leading expert, author, and pioneer in the field of Akashic studies for personal empowerment and transformation. Linda's work encompasses over 25 years of practice with students from all over the world, which includes teacher training, classes, and events. And so there's so much to cover, but I know that you wanted to begin with a bit of an exercise so we can connect and ground, right? And be present.
I thought it would be smart if we can just all come together, right? And just take a moment or two and close our eyes and open our awareness. I invite you to take this opportunity to be exactly where you are. Each one of us has a location at this moment, somewhere on the face of the earth. It is very particular. I am in Chicago, and you are wherever you are. Nice. We also know that we are here, not only in place, but in time. So whatever time it is, be in your own time zone. And know that we are all connected through space and time. Taking the moment to bring your awareness into your heart center, that place between your shoulder blades and your chest. Allow yourself to drop in and get a little comfortable there. Nice. Taking this moment to cast your gaze, cast your awareness out through your back body as if there was a window. Nice. You may visually see, most of us sense, that there are countless individuals supporting us in this lifetime. Those who've preceded you. Some you may be very aware of, and others not. And as your attention rests here, individuals gather from every time and place to lend you the support you need to bring your soul's purposes to life in this incarnation. Wonderful. And now, if you would, open your awareness to your left and your right. Here, you can have a sense of your traveling companions, those with whom you've been making this journey lifetime after lifetime, gathering to support you, standing shoulder to shoulder with you, for you and your success and fulfillment. If you look below, you may have a sense that you are standing on the shoulders of all right? All the accomplishments. Oh, your ancestors, no matter what your opinion of them, these people have all made valuable contributions to humanity. They have been participating here in the world on every continent. And you have access to their stature, their wisdom, their courage, their insight. And above all those who are supporting you with inspiration, ideas, and before you, the future, the moment is in front of you. This is how we humans understand it. And so direct your attention here. Nice. Here we find a clear slate. But you are being supported in this very moment by people from every walk of life, every dimension of consciousness, gathering to support you in this life. And so we open to all the possibilities before us. And from this place, we begin our work. And so we do acknowledge the forces of light, asking for guidance, direction, and courage to know the truth as it is revealed for our highest good and the highest good of everyone connected to us. So now, if you would, open your eyes and let's all be together. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Linda. That was beautiful. Oh, I could feel the cosmos. I could feel the people. I could feel the energies. And I feel inspired to continue this conversation because we're being held. And folks at home, you're being held as well and have always been held, right? And so, Dr. Linda, first of all, what are the Akashic Records? And how can we approach them to uncover ancestral issues and heal them?
The Akashic Record. I'm going to give you the most simple explanation I can, because I can talk for 5 days on the Akashic Record, but let's start with this. The Akashic Record is a vibrational archive of every soul and their journey as human. Okay, so that's what it is. So the Akashic Record, it's vibrational, so it's invisible. We never see it with the human eye or even with the strong eye. Okay, but it's vibrational. And people who are attracted to the record can sense or detect the vibration of the records. So it's a vibrational archive, which is a collection. So everybody's in the record. Okay, so the good news for you and me is that no one can throw us out. Like someone can't, if someone says to you, oh, Vanessa, I'm going to erase you from the records, or I'll take your ex and we'll boot them out. No, it doesn't work that way. The thing that's fabulous to me about the record is that there's room for everyone. Okay, people we like, people we don't like, people we know, people we don't know. There's room for everyone. But the focus is on human. So there are two dimensions of expression that are not included in the record. And so one of them is extraplanetary or extraterrestrials. That is not in the Akashic Record. The Akashic Record travels along, it's like the memory, right, of the Earth plane. And so it doesn't include extraplanetary activity or beings. Okay. The other thing is it doesn't include lifetimes that we've had perhaps as animals. Okay. Which is very interesting to me. Okay. Because the record doesn't say that we have never been animals. It just says we have no comment. Okay, I appreciate that, right? And trust me, I've been banging on the door for a while to get some of those, some scoops, right? But they're not there. Anyway, so that's what the record is. It's vibrational, and there are two parts to each person's records. The first part, do you know, I like to think of this as the DNA of the soul. Yeah, it's like our thumbprint, only it's our soul imprint. And this holds our ultimate potential as human beings. This impression is put in place. It was put in place right at the beginning of time, and we have eternity and maybe more. I don't know yet, right? We have eternity to fulfill that potential. Okay, so it's constant, it's fixed, and it's good, right? So that is the fixed part of the records. And then what travels along with that is the collection of the stories, really, of the lifetimes we live, through which we awaken to our ultimate potential and then live it here on earth. Now, I know for myself and certainly my friends, you know, it's very easy to be aware of our potential. And it is exciting and fabulous and unlimited and infinite. All that is true. But expressing that while we're limited human beings, well, this is a whole different story. So this takes lifetimes, right, to really grow into and manifest our magnificence. So does that make sense? That's really how this all works together.
Absolutely. I mean, I can't imagine that we would be able to, live our full potential in one lifetime. I'm so grateful that we have more than one, because we can focus on different things, right? In different lifetimes and develop different talents. So I really, really love it. And where do the ancestors fit into all this?
Okay, this is so fabulous to me. Okay. So we're here on Earth in this lifetime. And I am, as you are, as each one of us is the convergence, right? We are the central intersecting zone of all our relations. Okay, so as I stand here, it's as if all the promise, potential, and shall I say pitfalls of my family line, right, is poured into me, right, from my father, then from my mother, and then from all their relations, right? So that each one of us is the convergence. And now what's really interesting is that in different lifetimes, we have the opportunity to allow to the surface those challenges that have been unresolved from other times and places. And that is where clearing unwanted ancestral patterns comes in the Akashic record. Okay, now what's fascinating to me is that if I go into my record or into your record or someone's records and I say, tell me their, ancestral issues, it doesn't work that way. It works, the power of the Akashic record is in the present. So what I want to do is bring my concerns about challenges I'm facing in this life, right? And everybody has them. We all come with our collection. This is why we picked these people. I mean, and I know one of the great questions for many of us New Agers is, what the heck was I thinking, right? Because I don't know anyone who's on the path of awakening awareness who has an easy family.
No, not at all.
Not at all. That was another life, right? Or maybe it's, for some of us, we're hoping it's next life. But whatever it is, it's not now. But what is now is the opportunity when working in the record is to take responsibility for the fact that I selected these people. I mean, really, out of all the families I could have joined, and there are always, many openings, at the moment of our conception. It's like, okay, but I picked these people to support my awakening. So we begin to see that when we're looking at issues and challenges with our ancestors, our selections are to benefit us, not to benefit them. Okay, so I used to think that I picked my family because I was going to, I don't know, give them light or something. That my job was to fix and change them is really what I thought, in the name of the light, of course. Well, it turns out I had it backwards, because in the record, I began to see that I selected them, right, for my own growth. Because see, the record is always for us. It's not against us. It's for us. It's to empower and to give us the opportunity to become more than we have ever been. And sometimes that involves finding ourselves with difficult people who really don't understand us, right? I mean, which I certainly have. You know, I'm second of 8. I have 5 sisters, you know. I know that's 5 sisters, lots of karma. And then we have the 2 brothers. I'm like, I don't know, like, really, what was I thinking? But I have to tell you, it's turned out to be a great thing for me.
What I'm hearing is that there's absolutely a connection, speaking about the Akashic Records, with our family's origins or our family and our soul purpose and what we're living out in this life.
Absolutely. So I think this is really like mind-blowing. We share, every human being from an Akashic perspective shares one fundamental soul's purpose. And that is to come to know and love ourselves unconditionally, to love others unconditionally, and to love all of creation. Unconditionally, that's a very heavy word in my mind. Like, oh, really? You know, I've got some exceptions ready to go. So with that in mind, and then the particulars of that are really based on, like, I come from a family of obviously talkers, right? And everybody, blah, 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 blah. I come from the loud family, very loud people talking all the time, which is great, because part of my work is to take this ability to talk and the love of sharing and connecting and all my people. I mean, I look on both sides. I've got relatives like this. My challenge is, how do I make good with this? How do I take this to the next level? Not how do I keep my mouth shut, unless it's appropriate, right? But you understand. It's like, so each one of us, I mean, if you look at different families and different talents people have, the soul's purpose, everybody, right? If we understand everyone has a shared soul's purpose, and then there's a unique individual way of expressing it. Okay. So I have a friend who is a musician, plays the piano. Okay. This is fascinating. Everybody in the family plays the piano. The parents, everybody plays. Some of them play the violin too. I mean, these are a very musical family. Okay. For many years, my friend was like, they're all musical. I don't want to be musical. Right? We all know how this goes. Anyway, and my friend was extremely frustrated, but it wasn't until she said, oh, maybe there's a positive reason for this. And it's to take the gift of music to the next level. Mm-hmm. So we see this over and over. And, you know, with relationships, many of us come from families where relationships are fraught with problems and people, you know, everybody's mad at each other and carrying on, lots of carrying on. And the question is, how do I become my best without active support? You know, how do I do that? You know, it's very easy in my mind it's very easy. Like when I see people, they're like, oh, my parents love me so much. And it's easy for them to go and love. But to grow up in a situation where you don't feel understood, where your experience is always that you're banging your head against the wall, trying to get some kind of understanding and recognition, to be able then to turn around and to be understanding and to recognize others, this is no small feat. And this is the opportunity for light workers, right? Because we did choose to come to the planet at this time, which, you know, everything I think about with the records, I'm like, you have got to be kidding, you know, because, you know, many years ago, I thought, first of all, I thought I was the wrong person in the wrong body in the wrong life, and everything was a mistake. And working in the records, we come to recognize the positive value of every choice we've ever made. No one ever gets up and says, oh, today I'm going to do something dumb. No one ever does that. Even your crazy uncle, you know what I'm saying? The crazy uncle is really doing his best. And I don't mean like, he's making decisions based on everyone, every human being makes selections based on their desire to expand their experience of being known and loved. Now, we may not understand this about ourselves or others, but everybody's driven by that. And as we begin to understand that, it makes it easier to accept the choices. Some of the people in our lives, everyone has troublesome family members, okay, whether they know them or don't. Do you know how people say, I never met my family. Well, that's a certain path, right? And yeah, I mean, there's all, and so the question becomes, how do I love myself, even though my favorite sister doesn't want to talk to me? Or, do you know, I mean, it goes on and on. It's not how can I love my sister? I love my sister. That's not the issue. We love each other. We may not like each other, but we really do. And there may be times you're like, I don't know about this. But, you know, so it's like, how do I love myself in the presence of people who do not understand me?
That is landing so powerfully for me. So thank you for that. And I think it's such a challenge because sometimes the contemporary world can see when you're being kind as weakness or fear of confrontation. And I mean, there could be some level of that, but I think that for me, the journey has been, again, how do I continue loving myself even if I'm not understood? And how do I also see it from their side? How do I have compassion for what they've lived and the choices that they've made? Of course, we don't have to stay with them all the time if it's not cute, as you said, because we can love them but not like them. But I think it's very powerful what you just shared with everyone. You know, how do we love ourselves in the face of not being understood or being seen or being loved or being witnessed the way we desire to be witnessed?
I mean, that is one of the key Akashic assumptions about, you know, these assumptions establish the ground from which we stand on these assumptions. And then there's this Akashic approach. How do I look at this? How do I understand this? And the Akashic approach is, you know, there are a few key ideas. The first is every action, every selection that any individual takes or makes is based on a desire. And it's a deep, heartfelt desire to expand their own experience of being loved. And sometimes that means they want to get rid of us. I'm sorry. That's like, ouch, 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 but it's true, right? So we have that. And the other is that we select. So on my way into the life, this life, any life, we have an opportunity to, we visit a place called the zone of choice, which is the realm, right? We go to this zone to make choices about where we've been and where we want to go. And this is where we determine which family we're going to be with. For our own good, Is it good for them? We hope so. Of course, it's good for them. But see, that's not the point. The point is that it's good for us. You know what else is fascinating is this idea that the whole family must be at peace with themselves and one another, okay? To really accept and allow ourselves to be the way we are, and to accept and allow others to be the way they are, okay? And as we do that, the family group can then disband. But it is not until or unless everybody's in harmony with everybody else. See, I used to think, as long as I make peace with myself about everybody, I'm good to go. Well, no. This is a group activity, right? Family of origin, ancestral challenges, this is a group. And we all have a greater part to play than we realize. See, I found out working in my own records that, with a lot of sisters, there's always conflict, right? So I'm like, and I love it. I love Scoop. I love I read tabloids. I like the Kardashians, all that stuff. I'm into it, right? So I'd be with my sisters and this one's mad at that one. And I'm like, yeah, go, right? I'm like cheering for this one or that one. And then I got it in my records. You're making it worse. See, because what I was doing was prolonging this ancestral conflict. That is not helpful. What is helpful is for me to be gracious. I understand you're upset, and to not throw kerosene on the fire. What is this? Who the Buddhists say, do no harm. Let's start there. Let's just back off from making things worse. And so this is interesting because I have really come to understand from an Akashic standpoint, the difference between acceptance and forgiveness. I used to love the idea of forgiveness. Oh, it made me feel powerful. I could forgive people for being schmucks. And the record is like, who are you to forgive? You're not the judge. I was like scandalized. I'm like, no, you don't understand. I am the judge. Anyway, I'm not the judge. But so the challenge is to accept that everyone is entitled to find their own way. That is so, and to allow that. So if somebody wants to jump off the cliff, I mean, listen, I don't want anyone jumping off the cliff, but people do crazy things all the time, but the question is, can I accept the fact that happens? Okay. And that people are encouraged spiritually to make their own choices. And they might not be my choices. I have a son who's 29, and I have to tell you, and I love him to pieces, but I have to tell you, I'm not so thrilled with all his choices. He's got tattoos all over his arms. He's got some kind of an earring. I mean, I'm old, so I call it an earring in his lip. I'm like, well, who are you? But you know what? First of all, let's start with, it's his body. And the issue is not, how can I change him? I used to think, I'll send him like all this light. He doesn't want light. He doesn't even want an Akashic record reading. He wants me to respect him. So I have to give to others what I'm hoping they give to me, which is about acceptance. It's not about approval. It's not even about forgiveness. Nobody's really done anything wrong. Even when people make silly choices, at that moment, they really recognize this is their best idea to expand their experience of being loved. Anyway, so I'll tell you something. When I first came into the records, my ideas about what it meant to like wake up to these ancestors, and I was going to get in there and change everybody. Well, lo and behold, it doesn't really go that way. But here's the thing. I get to have relationships with people that I don't really understand them. Okay. Not only, it's not just that I want them to understand me, of course. But you know what? I get to be with people. I don't really understand them. I don't really get what they're about, that their life path is different than mine. How can we be in harmony? And you know this, we're going into, it's 2023 here. This is the time. How do I reconcile all these differences? This is spiritual hardball.
Absolutely.
So like this spiritual journey, especially when people come into the Akashic record, it's not about erasing people or changing things. It's about making peace with the reality of life here on earth. So that then because see, from an Akashic perspective, once we accept, right? Acceptance facilitates release. And so once we accept, as I accept, oh, this is the way it is. This is what I did, right? At that point, then I can go beyond it. But until I accept it, I am stuck with it. It's like white on rice, whatever it is. If it's karma, karma is fascinating.
Yeah, I was going to go there because I was like, what you're talking about, Dr. Linda, instead of forgiveness, but rather acceptance, and instead of throwing kerosene to the fire, to bring in, a different perspective, a bigger picture approach, feels a lot like healing karma.
Well, it is.
Not creating it, right?
So it is. You're right. It is healing karma. So this is terrific. So we know that karma is very simple. It's cause and effect. If I eat the cake, my pants won't fit. Simple, right? This is like a no-brainer. Okay, no judgment. It's just the way it is. Okay? Now, karma is cause and effect. What happens when I have a negative judgment about myself, anyone else involved, or any of the circumstances, is the pattern gets stuck and I keep repeating it. So if I think I'm bad for eating the cake, I keep eating cake. If I think the cake is bad, I keep eating the cake. If I think that whatever, what happens is the pattern repeats itself until I can make peace. Now, that doesn't mean I'm crazy about it. You understand? It just means I say, oh, I get it. Okay, so it's like in relationships, right? We all have, whatever. I mean, many, many challenges in relationships, but karmically, if we come from a family where everyone marries someone that limits their freedom, okay? We say, I'm never going to do that. I am never going to do that. I am never going to. Well, guess what? You're going to do it. Anything, right? It's the law of the universe, right? That which we resist persists. So the opportunity of stuck karma, like the way to break the pattern, is to recognize and accept. Oh, I might actually do that. I might actually do what my mother did and what her mother did and what her mother did and what all my aunts have done and some of my sisters. I mean, it goes on and on. I might do that. Can I love myself anyway? At that point, there is a shift. Okay. And the karma, as we know it, begins to dissolve. It becomes less seductive, less attractive to us. And we find ourselves interested in people who encourage our freedom as opposed to people who thwart us.
Well, it feels like we take the emotional charge away from the behavior because we're creating this resistance and pushing against it, and we hate it and putting all this energy into it.
Right.
And we're creating it, manifesting, and then we're living it without being able to see it. But I love that you said once we accept it, okay, this is possible. It's possible in the human, the range of human experience. It could happen. There's no like emotional charge and pushing against it.
Right.
So that's what is ringing to me is the emotional charge, releasing the emotional charge that then therefore allows us to escape or transform that cycle of that circle of that pattern.
Absolutely. Then we can go beyond it. Okay. Then, we talk a lot about choice, right? It's like, oh, I'm going to make different choices than my cousins, my whatever, right? We want to make different choices, but as long as we are judging the choices of others negatively, we are going to make some version of them. Okay. So the thing about the choices is as I accept, I might do that. What happens? It's like the horizon opens. You're right. It has to do with emotion. What's really interesting is that from an Akashic perspective, emotion, right? And we're not talking about phenomena. We're not talking about buzzing in the ears, whatever, electrical jolts over the top of our head. We're talking about true human emotion. When the light makes contact with a human being, the light is immediately converted into attributes of love. That's how light works with people. Okay, which is really, I don't know, for me, that blew my mind. Okay, so we see, and that when it comes to attributes of love, there's a hierarchy. Some of us only allow ourselves a little bit of love. Some of us, the most love we can tolerate is abuse. Okay, no one says, oh, I'm going to go have an abusive relationship. But people wake up and say, oh my God, this is abusive. How did I get here? Well, there's always a good reason. It's because at some point, everyone, at some point, I believed that was all the love I deserved. It's okay. At that point, I have another choice. Prior to that, I have no choice. I may say, oh, I love this. I'm going to cut the cords. Cut the cords, walk away. The problem is we're all one. That's the problem with that. Now, we don't want to hang out with people we don't want to hang out with. I am totally down with that. There's nowhere is it written we're going to get a prize if we're with people who treat us like a dirty shirt. So here's the idea. Cutting cords is a little delusional. Okay, because we're still connected. We don't have to, we don't have to travel together. Just because we arrived on the same spaceship doesn't mean, we have to like explore the planet together. Okay. So this business of cutting cords and saying, I'm free, I'm separate. No, it's peace in my heart. When I have room in my heart to be different, to let the people in my relations be different from me, at that point, I have lots of choices. There's plenty of room. There is a natural freedom. It is not separation, however. And I know for many years, my friends and I, we would always do these exercises where we're cutting cords. The problem was, my family is still my family. I can cut cords till the cows come home. And guess who's going to invite me or not, right? It's the way
they'll pop back up tomorrow. It's energy. It's like, boop, you cut it off. I did it. The next day, it's like, oh, it's here again.
Here we go again. Right. Because it's not accurate. What is more effective in finding peace and freedom is to allow ourselves and others to be exactly the way we are.
I love that. I love that so much. And it feels just freeing, hearing you talk about it, resonating with me deeply. What are some of the benefits? I think you've spoken about them already, but what are some of the benefits of resolving some of this ancestral, trauma?
Oh, the benefits. I love this because, every one of us comes to the planet with a pretty big to-do list. Those of us, I mean, right? The people we know, the people who are listening, the list is long, right? So we come here, it's like, oh my God, I've had it. Got to take care of things. Okay. Now, as I make peace with who I have been, all those traps, it's like they float away. Okay. I no longer have access to those traps. So there's increased freedom of self-expression, freedom to love and be loved, freedom to give. I mean, all of these things make a world of difference. And it's interesting because, like my friend, this is so fabulous. My friend with the piano, right? What turned out to be freedom for her was the freedom to be like the other people in her family and to have the gift of music. Because see, before that, she had prohibited herself from exercising that. Whereas I have another friend, I have this friend who is a doctor, right? A official doctor, the hospital, the whole bit. Here was the problem. She really hated it. That's a problem, right? You don't want a doctor who hates their job. Anyway, so my friend hates being a doctor, and we're talking, it turns out her mother wanted her to be a doctor. She didn't want to be a doctor. So for her, Ancestral, when she made peace, of course, she didn't feel like her mother loved her. She thought this would be a good way. It was a good idea when she was 20. At 45, it was no longer a good idea. Okay, so everything starts with a good idea. So what happened for her, now, do you know what she does? She's in real estate. So it's like, what? And no one in her family is in real estate. These people are doctors, you understand? So we cannot judge. One of the absolutes of the Akasha is judge not. So we can't judge. Like maybe it's to follow the path of of our ancestors. Maybe it's to take a different path. We don't know. What is the challenge is to recognize our own truth in the mix and to begin to take action expressing that. Can I tell you, I used to have this fear. It was a terrible fear. And the fear was that if I spoke up for myself, I would be killed. Now, listen, no one has ever held a gun to my head. You understand, this is kind of a crazy fear, but I would go to speak up and I'd be like, oh, someone's going to kill me. I'm just crazy. Okay, so I go into my records. I use the pathway prayer process. I go in. I'm like, where did this come from? And with that, I have this awareness of this little girl. And the little girl is holding on to the skirt of her mother. And she's in some kind of a godforsaken cottage. I don't know, someplace up north. It could be Russia, it could be Poland, right? Here's the thing. There were a group of soldiers came in and said to the mother, give us your daughters. All the kids were crying, blah, blah, blah. The long and the short of it is the mother, in her attempt to save herself and the children, mouthed off, right? She starts giving these guys the business. So you know what they do? They kill her. So the little girl, who was me, makes the decision that I will never speak up. It's a bad idea. Now, I'll tell you something. In that lifetime, that was a great idea. But it's like, excuse me, it's the 21st century. It's all like, it's okay, honey. It's okay. But see, until I recognize, because see, prior to that, I was mad at my mother and I was mad at her sisters. And I mean, I'm mad, I'm looking for role models. But see, it wasn't even about that. It was about making peace with myself. And from there, I could go on. And so this just for me, that's like my favorite, because I'm like, oh my God, I didn't know. So that's so there are many benefits, but see, the benefits depend a lot on what are the issues that are troubling in your life now, right? Where do you feel like you're being held back? What do you run away from? What do you avoid? What problems do you find that you keep starting over and over and over? I mean, we all do it. And we do it so that we can see. We don't do it because we're nitwits. We do it because we have to be convinced of the futility of our old ideas before we'll even consider a new idea. It's human nature. It's fine. Anyway.
Love that. We must be convinced of the futility of our old ideas because we're creatures of habit.
Yes.
We're like, it's not that bad. I'll deal with this. You're working for someone, it's terrible until they cross the line and then you're ready. So I love that we must be convinced of the futility of the old ideas, which, allows us to also be more compassionate with ourselves. It's human nature. This is the way it is. And if I accept myself, I can then have the potentials and the possibilities and the choices to move forward according to your take on the Akashic Records. I love this so much. Dr. Linda, is there anything else on your heart that you would like to share with us today?
Thank you. But you know what? When I look at my own journey and I look at the journeys of the people around me, I just know that everyone has made the selection of their family group for their own benefit. There's no punitive God force out there that's mad at us and making us be with our crummy brother-in-law. No, what kind of nutty? No. And that is, I believe, one of the greatest gifts or promises of working in this Akashic field consciously, responsibly, and deliberately, is that each one of us can find the value, the benefits of the choices we've made and the actions we've taken, especially with regard to our ancestors and our family of origin. And no matter how ridiculous your family is, and listen, I come from a long line of real ridiculous people who I happen to love, but they're really wacky. But I have to tell you, every family has a higher potential. And the potential to express and manifest that lives within each individual. And so the question is, am I going to be a person who buries this and runs away from it? Or will I do my part and take these family traits to their next highest level of expression? And it's up to us individually. And I believe that everybody who is involved on the path has already made that decision.
I love that so much, Dr. Linda, and I feel that it's true. We've made that decision. We're here. That has been so beautiful. Thank you so much. I feel like I've resonated with everything that you've said, and I know that our audiences have as well. Please follow Dr. Linda, and may we continue this journey of awakening, accepting, and loving ourselves throughout everything and anything, right?
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Linda. Thank you, everyone.